Right, we are back. Room 301. I have got another special guest this week. I've got Josh Allerton from Lightbox Digital. Josh, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for jumping on. So, to get started, why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself and your role as SEO specialist? I believe, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So SEO specialist at Lightbox Digital. We're basically like a content creation agency with emphasis on SEO as well. So we cover SEO, PPC, visual and design, as well as social media. My role, SEO specialist, at the moment, is kind of incorporating everything from creating the strategies to creating the content to then account management. So yeah, just trying to get people more traffic to the website and then convert that into leads that actually gets them more money in the long term. That's the sort of role I'm taking on at the moment.
Strategy right through to the sale, right through to the account management. Not a lot you don't see there, is there?
No, there's not. No, I'm pretty hands on, and to be honest, I enjoy it like that. I like to. What's the term? Have my finger in every pot.
Every
Is that the
pie, every
pie?
pie.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, I suppose, you know, we're going to be talking about the commercial impacts of SEO today, and you know, like me, Josh, having been in the game a long time, it's often very difficult to present the commercial benefits of SEO, especially when it's a bit of a longer term strategy. All the stuff we all know about, but having your fingers in many pies, I suppose, you can see the process at every single step, can't you? And I guess you've built up lots of experience in terms of showcasing that benefit, communicating that benefit, which I think is really, really important. Um, because people are skeptical about SEO, even still these days. Even though it's proven to be a good thing for business, it's proven to be one of the core ways to grow a business, grow a website, grow traffic, grow inquiries, sales, whatever it might be. But still, people like me and you still have those challenges. So I'm going to start with quite a broad question, a big question. How how can you convince stakeholders who are perhaps quite reluctant to invest in SEO, um, given it's a longer term investment? How can you convince them to pull the trigger on an SEO in the first instance?
I think yeah, depends on the context. If a client comes, not a client, but a prospect comes to us straight off the bat and shows an interest in SEO but is a bit reluctant, that's probably for us is maybe a red flag, or is it a beige flag it's called nowadays? There's
Page
all
flag.
these
I've seen that
different
on TikTok
flags.
quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get lost. I don't think anyone wants to be in the art of necessarily selling and trying to sell something that isn't going to lead anywhere. I think that's why it's going to sound really bizarre now, but why social media is so important today, because it can be a
Mm,
top of funnel education that can
yes.
over time convince them. So when they do come to you looking for SEO, it's definitely something that they're warm to, or maybe use a newsletter or YouTube, or guess what, a podcast like this. You know, definitely to warm them to the idea and convince them more. Um, Sometimes we would change direction. Like, to be honest, I was on a discovery call the other day. Um, a guy came to us. He's worked in many top level like Rolls Royce and many big different companies like that. It's not Rolls Royce, by the way, just as a disclaimer. Um, and he needed to convince his board, who he's a part of, that we should go with SEO. But traditional viewpoint, we want only 3 months. We want to do 3 months, get results in 3 months. And it's like, yeah, we can get you results, but we don't think that's going to be the actual results, the commercial results you want.
Mm,
And in that instance, actually, in this particular context, we convinced to go with PPC on a short-term basis to kind of show that these keywords do convert. So then on a commercial basis, you can go to the board and say, look, this is how much cost per click, cost per lead from a PPC perspective. If we invested this much in SEO, we can see obviously less over time, a cost per lead. So that's just one way we have done it, where not necessarily selling SEO straight away, maybe looking at PPC. But then on the flip side, maybe just hot pausing conversations when people want results now rather than wanting to play the long term.
is that the typical thing you see? Wanting results sooner rather than later, which is very, very difficult to it's not unachievable, but you don't want to be in a position where you're either guaranteeing that or suggesting that it can be done, because you know that so many things are out of your control as an SEO. But in terms of the typical sort of barriers that your prospects of yours put in place, is it the time it takes to get results?
I think it can do, depending on the client. I think over the previous maybe year, I think I might have been looking at a situation where a lot of people coming to us now, or at least when I'm just talking in this space, are more comfortable with the idea. They know it's going to take 6 to 12 months.
Yeah,
But especially those, what I do find is those that come to us, we want a result in 3 months. It's because of a marketing disaster that's happened before. They've noticed this massive
yeah,
decline, massive, and they're panicking. And I think I'd advise any SEO, any agency, any salesperson, if that's the case, honestly, I would stay away from selling SEO in that perspective. You know, you can probably make a short-term quick buck out of it, but yeah,
mm.
that's bad faith. I would opt for something else, or at least advise them to fix the issue before uh, scrambling at just SEO.
And have you got any tactics or strategies that you use when in those conversations with prospects that help you to help them visualize the commercial outcome? So I'm thinking things like, I know, is it SEO Monitor? They've been speaking a lot about their forecasting tool at the minute and things like that. So do you use anything like that to really show them what is possible?
Yes, if the client can help as well, that's perfect because, for example, I have one client, it's a wedding venue booking. Now, I didn't sell this, but this is sort of data that can, when both prospect and an agency can work together, can actually visualize. I know,
Yeah,
for example, with the wedding booking venue, that if they if they get it's something like 4 leads a month through the website, they'll
okay,
convert 83% of those, and they can fully book out their wedding venue for either the year or the next 2 years. So by having that key data to understand that it might not be through the website, it might be through other avenues, but understand the uh, conversion rate post offline, or if it's e-commerce on the site, you
got
can
you.
then quite easily show the growth that if they rank 1, 2, 3 for certain keywords, that a percentage of this is going to equal, well, might equal this amount of sales, and this
Yeah,
is your,
might being the keyword.
yeah, yeah,
Never say
definitely,
will.
yeah. I make sure that's on every documentation. Might, not will.
Absolutely. And I suppose, the classic thing that we've all said as sort of SEO agency leaders is 6 to 12 months. That's kind of the default thing to say, isn't it? Now, do you think SEO as we know it now is going to become more or less effective? And will that impact that 6 month range that we all talk about?
Is that as in? Are we talking about? Do we reckon the timeline is going to shorten, lengthen, or just in general,
Yeah.
SEO is
I mean,
going
I'm
to be
interested in
effective?
your opinion. Do you think it'll be easier to get results going forward, or more difficult? There's lots of changes happening at the moment. AI is taking effect. Algorithms are changing. They're even more volatile than they ever have been, I believe, as we record now. So, yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts in terms of, do you think it's going to get harder and therefore even longer to gain results? Or do you think there's going to be, I hate to say it, but quick wins and it's going to be even easier?
I think if you're only focusing on SEO, it's going to
Mm,
become much more difficult.
got you.
I think uh, with the way that Bard is coming out, and we're seeing with Bing Chat what it could become, is there's going to be more inclusion of different mediums, so video. Even we've seen snippets of it, but I predict they're going to link out to even Instagram and Facebook. So if SEO is just the only channel you're exploring, and
Mm,
the Bard is going to take up 50%, or the above the fold of your screen, you could lose out. Whereas if you come with a holistic approach, you make sure that you are creating video content or whatever in social media as well. The two can work side by side. So I think, yeah, I think the game is changing. It's not necessarily a lesser importance on SEO. I think that's going to be actually the main. It's going to have a higher importance because instead of us just focus on getting found on Google, found on a search engine, we're now going to shift to being more, where can we get found across different channels? You know,
Got you.
I always think like Pinterest is a great example where we're getting massively neglected, because even if you're running a blog on, I don't know, whatever, you should be using that, because that within itself is a search engine, which I don't know how many people search a month, but again, that's another form of search that we should be tapping into. So I think, probably to answer the question in a nutshell, it's going to become more difficult if you're just focusing on Google or on a particular search engine. But if you want to be more effective, you've got to start now branching out into these different so-called search engines.
No, I totally agree, and I think I see a lot of folks over on Twitter or X, as it's now called, as of
Yeah,
yesterday or the day before, whatever it was. Um, they're talking about a lot of synergies between brand and SEO now. And I actually noticed one of your tweets, Josh. You spoke about this thing about SEO is one of the end goals is increasing direct traffic. So when you talk about that holistic approach, is that the sort of thing you mean? Is focusing more on, or not necessarily more, but focusing on brand and how SEO can be more of a holistic approach to drive other channels and things like that?
yeah, I think it's part of brand association. I think that what triggered that sort of tweet, that sort of thinking, was earlier on in my days. I was looking at when you get a new client come to you who's probably just starting a new website and never had SEO before. You see that their branded the percentage of the branded keywords that they get
Yeah,
traffic from is quite high, maybe as high as 80%. I was like, okay, if you do SEO for a while, you should see that to decrease. You don't need to be zero because you got no brand awareness. So what should that level be? What's the optimal level of brand awareness of branded keywords? But then I started to think in terms of take a step back from just SEO and think about marketing and the user journey. I just started to think, well, I forgot who I built this idea upon. I'll try to dig it out. But the idea that you need to become your own industry search engine, so that when people are searching for, they may search the digital maze because they've seen you on Facebook, or maybe you're at a networking event. Oh yeah, I remember that
yeah,
digital maze or Lightbox or whatever. And then maybe later down the line, they're asking a question about SEO. Like, what is a meta description title? And then that's when you get found. That's when SEO wins. Oh, okay. I can see these guys. But then later down the line, they might think, you know what? I've been following these guys' content. Instead of just going searching for an SEO agency, or searching if they have a question about SEO or whatever product or an issue you're in, they're going direct to the source. Now, it might mean they go on Google, type in Lightbox or the digital maze or the brand name, and then click on it. So it's not true direct traffic, but I'd class it as that. But they're going directly to the people they trust to find the content that they need to. And that, in
got
my
you. Yeah,
opinion, is brand awareness. I mean, probably down the line, you could even, and this could be a way that not necessarily SEO is going, but the way that sort of brands could go. If you have a massive knowledge base, you could create an app or even a web app. So instead of going to Google, they can click on, Digital Maze or Lightbox app, and they can ask a question in there or find the content in there to directly, completely missing the search engine altogether. But then that is still a win because it's building that brand awareness. So then,
yeah,
when they are looking for those services or that product, they know exactly who to come to. And that's what I meant by branding. SEO becomes brand. It is brand, not just a channel.
100%. And I think that speaks to a lot of what you might call traditional content creation, so blogs, knowledge hubs, that kind of thing. And I think we'll see that's always been a strategy, but I think there'll be a lot more emphasis on that going forward. I think it's been a nice to have in the past, but now it's something that I think there needs to be money and time put aside for that to happen now if we want to secure the future of our SEO strategies and our traffic growth and all that kind of stuff. So that's sort of the more traditional content creating model. One of the things that, and maybe you think differently, Josh, but one of the things that I always find quite challenging to talk to customers about is the creative content, the digital PR, the sort of link acquisition side of things. Not only because it can be quite expensive, it's very time intensive, and all the outreach, and there's probably even less guarantees that will work than your more traditional SEO sales processes. Have you got any examples of where you've been able to present the sort of commercial outcomes of creative content or digital PR, and how you relate that back to business objectives for the client to make it speak their language and things like that? I'd love to know.
Yeah. So our approach when SEO is selling it, because obviously everyone's who's even listening, that I know that link building's always had a bad rep. It's always, we've been through many Google updates where bad link building or link farms have been punished.
Yeah.
So even to someone who doesn't know SEO, they had this association, and I'll admit sometimes it does feel a bit dirty to play in sort of link building. It doesn't feel quite authentic, but I tell you, that's the game we're in sometimes. But what we do, especially Lightbox, we focus on the digital PR point of view. Where I think going back to the brand example before, where we take an expert in the company, whoever it is. Normally, it's like CEO or director, and then we push them forward to go and get the link. Well, we do that. We go and get the links of the quotes of these people to perceive them as an expert. Now, yeah, in terms of commerciality, yeah, sometimes it is difficult to sell that, but I think sometimes people understand digital PR better, because when you say to them that you're going to get publicity, sometimes in tier one publications like the Daily Mail, or the Metro, or maybe a more niche publication that they're familiar with, that that excites them, um, and they understand that more, because I suppose it is like traditional marketing, isn't it? You go to someone, I want to put you in the newspaper, I want to put you in this magazine. They understand the concept, that eyes are on that. It's a more tangible result than trying to explain to someone that if we get you a niche edit link somewhere, you might not get traffic from it, but it's going to increase your domain authority. Or what's domain authority? You down this rabbit hole. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and so it's. I want to be clear. It's definitely not a missile. We're choosing the easier route here. Digital PR
No, of
is extremely
course.
difficult, but it's a more logical and easier way to explain to the clients, and it feels cleaner. I don't know if that's the right word. It feels more natural that your experts are getting quoted, um, and I suppose just the last one to touch on it is people sell. Um, so by quoting an expert, by putting someone in the limelight, you probably get more interaction on social media, or even the person who got quoted might share it on their social media. So that will build traction overall, and then lead directly to more traffic on the website, which then gives social signals and then boosts that. So I think from a digital PR perspective and commerciality, there's more impact, but also more buy-in from the client, because they're at the center of it. It's not that they're just hiring an agency and we run away and do our job and then come back to them once a month and say, hey, we've done this. They're involved in the process, or at least they feel more involved than before.
Absolutely. And is there any KPIs? Bit of a dirty word, isn't it? Is there any KPIs that you typically put in place for digital PR or creative content?
Uh,
Obviously, it varies from client to client. I can imagine.
yeah, I suppose we do watch like referrals, the referral traffic, what's coming in from
Mm.
that. And one thing we're trying to do at the moment is trying to increase our. I think the attribution model is the correct term for what we're trying to do, but we're just trying to make sure we can see what each channel is. Not say we're contributing in like a cost per click or cost per lead, but for example, how many times was SEO part of this user journey? We're trying to improve our tracking for that, so we can at least go to client and say that even though it was a PPC win here, or a referral win, a digital PR win, this lead did actually visit your site through organic search twice. It did contribute to the user journey. So that's hopefully a KPI we can definitely introduce. But um, in terms of KPI from directly from digital PR, probably just watching that referral traffic and just seeing the general, how that links to rankings in general. Um,
Okay.
it's not a direct one. We're working on that. I think probably the industry is probably working on that, but it's a lot easier than selling just link building.
And is there any KPIs? Just again, moving back to SEO and putting digital PR and creative content to one side, even though they're all one of the same thing effectively. But when that's not involved, again, same question: do you have any KPIs in place for anybody who doesn't take the digital PR aspect, that just focus pure on SEO content, whatever it might be, technical SEO? Do you have any KPIs with that? And are they more commercial or are they more traffic driven? I suppose is the key question there.
We track both. If you, first of all, the first thing I report is leads generated by organic search or revenue generated by organic search, because let's be honest, that's all clients care about. It doesn't matter how many blogs you create, it doesn't matter how many, even traffic in some regards, it doesn't matter how many people you get on the site. Are they
Yeah.
converting? Yes, that's all they care about, return on investments. That's the first thing we do. And then supporting KPIs, the traditional ones are Google Search Console impressions, the average position. There's always context to that. Sometimes it's going up because of, for example, the amount of keywords we're ranking might be going up, or it might be the average position. It might be that average position has dropped, but that's because we've just done about 5-6 blog posts and they're now ranking. So again, it's about giving context to those. But yeah, the main drivers are always how many leads are we generating? Are they good quality? Is that UX? I don't know, but are we generating enough leads? Are we generating the revenue? Because at the end of the day, if a client wants to leave you, it's not because you haven't created enough blog posts or you haven't built enough leads. It's because you're not making the money, and that's what you have to
Yeah.
focus on, while still building the trust that it is. Maybe it is a 6 to 12 month project, but they can see that slowly increase. Brilliant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned UX there very, very briefly. So again, another facet of the never-ending SEO puzzle, but a super important one is what I've learned in my experience. So again, have you noticed the same thing? Do you see it having a positive impact on the sort of commercial outcomes?
Absolutely. I think like every 6 months with my clients, we do. I don't call it a UX because I don't want them to think we're offering a UX service, but
No.
using a tool like Microsoft Clarity or Hotjar,
Mhm.
I will go through and I will make a mini report of where people are. For example, one client, it was like, there's this button here that looks like a button. It isn't a button. People are clicking on it. Let's just change the color or something like that. On the other side from that, we were able to notice that people were, it was like they were going to buy one product, they add to the basket, then they'll find this other similar product, and then you can see them debating between them. So from that,
Mm.
we then create have a blog post or something or content comparing them. Um, so overall, I think UX, or at least user journey, is massively important. I think even from an SEO perspective, an age page, you should be interested, because if you're getting people on the page, if you've worked your backside off for months to get people on a page,
Yep.
and they're struggling to use it to convert, what a waste. What a waste of money.
Absolutely.
What a waste of time. And if you can show that to the client that that's what's happening, the responsibility is semi off you. Um, you made the suggestions, and you can kind of get that buy-in then to go and make those improvements. So yeah, I think UX is going to become more important in SEO, even finally, even from a perspective of, fine, we got your page loading extremely fast, but what's the next step the user is going to do? Is that visible? Is that clear? Good. It's about taking them on that journey. Whether that is, the SEO job is up for debate. Are we webmasters on steroids, or are we um, a particular part of that journey?
Yeah, and it's got, we can't forget it's got multiple benefits as well, because the search engines are taking into consideration website user metrics now as well. So how long people are spending on certain pages, bounce rates. I don't know this for sure, but bounce rates, time against sessions, all that kind of stuff. So actually, um, the benefit of having a well optimized website and having good user metrics is benefits rankings as well as the actual conversion rate. And another way to really put that plain and simply to customers, I find, is, let's just say you've got a website that has, I'm trying to keep it simple now so I don't mess up with maths on the spot, but 5,000 visitors, and you've got a 1% conversion rate. You've got 50 people per month either picking up the phone or making a sale, whatever your conversion means. If you just added a mere 0.5% to that conversion rate, which is not out of the realms of possibility at all, an extra 25 people there, and I don't know what, if your average value is £1,000, that's an extra £25,000 in revenue. So it can have a massive, massive uptick if you get it right. And I think, again, there's so many SEOs or agencies out there that focus just on one facet of SEO, but actually pulling it all together and working out when the right time is to deploy certain tactics is the best thing to do. So when you have managed to make an uptick of traffic by 10-20%, maybe that's the right time to employ UX and work out how we're going to make the most of that additional traffic. Like you said, you don't want to spend all that time dragging people to your site for it to be a slug to load, or it just the buttons don't work, or whatever it might be. It's a real pain. So do you approach B2B and B2C differently in terms of commercial outcomes and KPIs, or is it quite similar in your mind?
I think, yeah, from a KPI, yeah, I think it's quite similar in my mind. The only difference with B2B is you can't necessarily measure the quality of the leads, whereas in e-commerce, well, B2C, if it is, oh yeah, that's e-commerce and lead gen. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, B2B probably takes a bit longer, so you probably need to emphasize more content at the different levels of the funnel. Whereas B2C, what we have found is if you just focus more on bottom of the funnel, middle of the funnel first, get that right first, that will generate the most um, effective wins. Because most B2C, people just want to buy now. You know, one of our clients is a cardboard box manufacturer. You know, they just want to buy. People want to buy a cardboard box. They want to buy it now. They don't want to necessarily compare the different features. They just want to buy it now. Whereas B2B, I suppose, if you want to take that same example, if someone wants to make a custom branded cardboard box, maybe they're going to take a little bit longer, especially if they're going to be investing, I don't know, how much custom cardboard boxes cost to make on 10,000 units. They might take a little bit longer. And again, even talking about our own industry here with SEO, that again is going to need a longer content journey, more
Mm.
content to educate than maybe B2C. So, but I still approach it in the same aspect. I'm probably more a content SEO than maybe a technical. I don't know. My background is in freelance writing, so I always naturally lean on that. But I do believe that both approaches should be from educating the user, entertaining them if you can, and pushing them along that journey a bit more. So I think that might answer the question. But
No, it does. It certainly does. So look, I'm gonna. We've spoken a lot about almost what not to do or what not to say in to stakeholders when it comes to SEO. So if I play the role of a marketing director for a moment, I've got a budget, been given a budget from the CEO. I've managed to convince him to invest in SEO. What? How should I approach when I come to you as an agency? How should I approach that? What makes me a green flag, should we say, if we're talking about beige and red flags? What makes me a green flag person to work with, and how can that be leveraged to get even more success?
first thing that comes to mind is being completely honest with your positioning. Sorry, as in being completely honest on your situation. One discovery call I've been on, I was looking at the website. I was like, this website is not. I don't actually understand what you do. Luckily, the client said that for me, and that just makes everything so much easier. Because if a client comes to you and says, you know what, this website, our website, we need to rewrite everything because you cannot tell what we sell. It's not very clear where to go next and what we actually do. It was a great moment for us because then we can start actually having an open, honest conversation. So I think that's
Yeah,
one of the
you can
first green
slate you can
flags.
slate it openly.
Yeah, yeah. So coming in, maybe that's not a great example, but coming in and saying, look, guys, interested in SEO. It hasn't been great over the past year, or we haven't invested before. Being open honest, that's a first green flag for us. Um, we started putting our packages on the website, and I think that's made a difference because the conversation around budget has now been done for us. People know what they could be investing. But before, yeah, you have to handle the sort of £300 a month, you know, £500 a month clients. I think even part of our sales journey is to verify that they've seen the packages, they are aware of what it could cost. So it would be a green flag to come in and say, this is sort of budget we do have, instead of playing that tennis ball game of, what's your budget? How much is it? No, what's your budget? It gives us a strong setup.
So having verified that there's a sufficient budget to actually move the needle, because that's the tough part of being in agency, isn't it? There's always that budget conundrum of, oh, it's not quite enough to move the needle, need a little bit more, but they want to see the results before they increase the budget. All all the classic face-offs that you see. So you mentioned there, and sorry, I've
No.
interrupted, we've gone off piece, but you mentioned the packages there. So does that help you then? Does that help you in terms of, presume it's got a minimum spend with you guys all the way up to, if you had all the money in the world, here's what it would look like, and that's what pre-qualifies it for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, and those packages don't have to be set. It's not like you can if you want. I suppose you could turn up and be like, yeah, I want this package. Okay. Well, we have a conversation, make sure it's the right fit. If someone came to us with an extremely difficult niche or industry, then it's like, can we? But then it also depends because, like, we've had different scenarios where people come to us and say, we've got a content team ready to write. We just need help creating briefs. So it might be that it's the same budget but a different approach. But the sort of like packages we do have at the moment, I think they do match what you should be investing, um, give or take. But yeah, I think it has definitely helped us in terms of quality of leads. Um, I think just from being on the other side of that situation when uh, I used to run a vegan sweet shop before I got an SEO. So going out to,
Quite a career change.
yeah, I love food. So yeah, I mean, but when I left the vegan sweet shop, to be honest, when I was doing that, I was creating the website, I was doing SEO, doing all the marketing. So it kind of kept that going. But yeah,
Mm.
when I was running that, I was sick of tired of just going on websites, not necessarily just about marketing, just other B2B websites, and they don't even have a from price. And this is something I talk about with the clients as well. We need to put a price on the site, even if it's a from price, even if you're designing offices, because even designing and fitting out an office that can vary depending. But I appreciate that. But given a solid from price, it just sets that expectations. Now it might mean I went off a tangent here, sorry, but that might mean your quality, the quantity of leads may drop, but I'm pretty confident the quality will
That's
increase.
interesting.
What was the original
It's actually
question?
something we
Sorry.
don't. It's actually something we don't do at the minute. It's interesting. I might take that one away. Um, no, it is interesting because we're a fairly sizable agency. Um, well, more than 30 staff, and we still get clients with budgets of less than 500 quid, and we have to turn them away or point them in the direction of someone who can service that. So yeah, that's something I might take away. Um, but no, that was my fault. Go back to the original question. I'm a marketing director.
Yeah.
What makes me the perfect candidate? Okay, I've got sufficient budget. Let's say I've looked at your packages. I know I can afford at least a minimum, hopefully more. I'm honest. I've told you, look, the website's rubbish. Tear it apart. Do what you got to do. What else do you kind of look for?
Uh, I have to explain this a bit more, but not complete control of the website, but the ability to make those
Yeah,
changes without asking permission, because um, this happens both ends. If you need to get approval every time you have to make a small change on the website, unless your client is sitting on the other side of the laptop 24/7 waiting for you to message, that's going to be a slow progress and a slow SEO. So having the ability to just change the copy a little bit, you know, or even we have one client which we can make sort of semi big changes without needing massive approval, but just having that ability to do that. And probably another one is openness to change, being willing to experiment. One of our favorite clients at the moment, he does SEO, PPC, paid social, think organic social. But the beauty of that is that we can go to him and say, let's just take a little bit of this budget here. Let's go experiment. Let's go see what happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But being willing to do that is a great opportunity. Now, obviously, of course, we can't walk into a sales meeting for the first time and say, we're going to do SEO, we're going to experiment, because that does not sell. We're going to take a risk, take a gamble. Like that's something that won't work. But developing that sort of relationship to have that trust to make those little experiments is a green flag.
100%. I always find that the experience level of the people that I'm speaking with makes such a big impact as well. Because they've been there, they've done that, they've experienced it, they've probably worked with different agents in the past, they know what they do want, they know what they don't want, and they can speak to that quite clearly. And it means that we can tailor our solution. We may decide it might, maybe not the right fit. Maybe we decide it's a perfect fit, and we really lean into it. But I think the experience level is a massive thing for me when being in those situations. So just to sort of round things off, we've spoken about what's good in terms of what we should look for. If we are the decision makers in companies, what should we be doing to make sure that our agencies work the best they can? I really like the point about controlling the website as well, because not only is flexibility a massive thing, we've come across lots of websites that for any tiny little change needs a web developer who charges £200 an hour to do it for you as well. So that's just by the by. I'm glad you mentioned that. But just to round things off, what advice would you give to businesses, marketing directors, stakeholders who are looking to leverage SEO for significant growth? What's your sort of silver bullet for those people? Big question.
Yeah. So what's the silver bullet for leveraging SEO for their growth? Is that the question?
Great.
If you're marketing director, CMO, okay. If you're a CMO, and you've got a big budget and you can have a big team, maybe you build an internal content team and then work with an agency. Use the agency as a not consultancy, a bit more like strategy and execution, and marry the two. If you're a small marketing team or marketing person of one, I'd say go out and get an agency. Now I know we're biased, we're both agency side, but I think just tapping into experts in something like this when it's such a wide, broad topic, sometimes it's not worth your budget or time to try going at it alone. And we've all had those clients, I think, well, I have, who are like, oh, yeah, we don't need SEO. I want to do it myself. And then I get like an email months later, like, oh, yeah, you on Yoast? And it's like, they've just installed Yoast. And it's like, well,
My
you have
eyes
to,
just rolled, but if anyone didn't see that.
yeah, so you have to correct them. It's like, well, it might say this on Yoast, but that's not, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what Yoast says to a degree before anyone tries to sue me. So yeah, I think that the silver budget is at this moment in time either way incorporate an agency, if it's on a strategy perspective, even if it's a full execution, just offload it because it's such a big task and it requires. I mean, especially in this ever-changing landscape at the moment. I mean, we're going through probably the biggest unconfirmed Google update I've ever seen. You need people on the ground who are passionate, who are in love with it, and the resources available. So yeah, go and invest in an agency. It's probably cliched and expected, but that's probably what I would advise.
No, I really particularly like the advice you mentioned there about the content team. One of the, and I'm sure you've experienced this, and I've spoke to a load of people agency side who say the same things, where one of the biggest blockers to gaining momentum or rate and pace of strategy is the lack of copywriting abilities internally, because we get people outsourcing their copywriting to us, but we still need to lean on them for their experience, their expertise, especially if it's sort of more authoritative stuff, so that can slow things down. If we can just, if our customers have got internal copywriters, it makes things so much faster. For us to create a brief and an outline and maybe a template and a structure might take 2 to 3 hours of our time, whereas to write the whole thing might be looking 5 or 6. And also for them, in terms of ROI and investment in us and paying us for the things that really set us apart, like strategy, like the expertise, like that passion, and everything you just said, Josh, makes a lot more sense. But I know having an internal team of copywriters is a massive luxury, which I know, why you aimed it at CMOs in particular, wasn't it? Because they're the ones who hold the budget. They're the ones that can build that team if they want to build that team. Well, look, Josh, I really appreciate that. I think discussing the commercial impacts of SEO is massively important. I think from lots of different perspectives. Obviously, from our perspective in terms of being agency side and trying to communicate to marketing leaders, but actually from marketing directors, CMOs, anybody who's in control of a marketing budget. they are often in the same situation as us, trying to convince their CEO or board or whoever it might be, shareholders, to invest in SEO. So I think the advice you've given is twofold. It can be aimed at people like me and you who are talking to the marketing leaders, or the marketing leaders themselves who are trying to extract more and more budget because they know the positive impact that SEO can have. So I really appreciate your time, Josh. Thank you for being on. This is actually our last episode of the first season of this podcast. So we will keep you posted with what happens next. I think there'll be a few changes in season 2. I think a change of format. Lots of exciting stuff that we are working on behind the scenes. So I appreciate everyone who has listened to this first season. We had a great load of support. And we will see you again soon.